Hello and welcome to Gardening at 58 North. In this video I'm going to be planting out this Nordmann fir Christmas tree. As you can see, it was planted up in a pot, so it's had roots. It's now March and it survived fine in a pot. You could grow them a few years in a pot, but they tend to die off after a few years just because they really should be in the ground. They're trees after all, they need a lot of space. So this one I'm going to be planting in my parents' garden. You can see here it was placed in a pot, but actually it's actually in a bag, and then it's in a special kind of pot, which means that they can plant it in the soil and the roots can grow out and they can easily dig it back up again. So it's in quite a clay mix. What I'm actually going to do in this video is I'm going to plant it again in this original pot. The reason for that is because we want to dig this up for Christmas next year, so we're just going to bury this pot in soil. If we took it out of the pot, it would actually grow an awful lot better, and it would grow really large, and it would be too big for Christmas trees unless we cut it off completely. And if we did try to dig it out, it would be a lot more difficult because the roots would be spreading everywhere, whereas this keeps the roots quite compact. You can see that a few roots will kind of come out from the sides and things like that, but generally the roots stay in the small pot, so it makes it a lot easier. Now I'll show you another Nordmann fir that was planted a few years back, and also a Sitka spruce, to give you an idea of how kind of size these can get if you do leave them. So this here is another Nordmann fir. You can see it's quite a bit bushier than the last one. This I think has only been in the ground for a couple of years, and I'll show you the kind of growth that's put on. As you can see, it's not put on a huge amount of growth, but we can have a look here at the growth stages and you can see the kind of differences to how it's done over the years, and I explain why it's growing at different rates. So first of all, if we go right down, so if we count down, that's 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years ago. This was growing in a field outside. You can see it put on a good foot of growth. It was very healthy, plenty of root space. Then the year after that, it was transferred to a pot. As you can see, it's only put on a few centimetres of growth that year because it was in the pot. It didn't have enough root space and it didn't do so well. That's when we had it as a Christmas tree. Then we planted it out in the garden, and the first year, as you can see, it put on a bit more growth than the year before, but it wasn't really doing very well. It was still struggling, still hadn't recovered all its roots after being put in a pot and then planted in the garden, so it only put on a small bit of growth. And then the last year, because the roots have now established, you can see it's put on a good foot of growth again, and in fact this will put on a lot more than a foot of growth when it's a happy tree. At the moment it's still kind of getting used to the soil, but you can see it's very glossy green foliage. It looks a bit darker than the one I'm about to plant because it's got a lot more nutrients, a lot more moisture because it's in the soil, and it's putting on some good strong growth. It's starting to lose some of its symmetrical appearance just because it's next to a wall and there's a point onto the side of it as well, but it's growing quite well, and this will easily grow a foot or two every year. But I'll show you now our Sitka spruce tree, which is a much larger plant. As I say, this one's only been in the soil for a year or two, the Nordmann fir, but the Sitka spruce here has been in the soil for several years. When we first moved here 4 years ago, it was actually at about the height of down here, and you can see that it was only growing a few centimetres every year, and that must have been when it was first planted. The first year we were here, it grew about a foot. Year after that, it grew another foot or so. You can see the gaps are between here and here. Year after that, it grew a tiny bit more, and then the last 2 years, it's grown almost a metre per year. So this is really starting to take off now. And if you do plant a Christmas tree in the garden, you can expect it to grow almost a metre a year. It will depend on the type of Christmas tree. If you've got a Norway spruce, or especially a Sitka spruce like this one here, you'll get a huge amount of growth. You can get up to 2 metres a year in perfect conditions. If you have a Nordmann fir, however, like the one down here, or a noble fir, or some of the Fraser firs, they'll grow a lot slower. They'll only grow about a foot or two a year. But as I say, if you do grow a Sitka spruce, make sure you know where you're going to put it, because it's going to put on a lot of growth very quickly. This did have a nice symmetrical shape, but unfortunately it was starting to crowd over where we walked past in the polytunnel. So this has been trimmed on one side, but looking from this direction, it still kind of has a nice Christmas tree shape. It's just that one side we've trimmed off to make sure we can still get access to the path. So that's a good example there. As I say, that one in the back over there, the Nordmann fir, that's only been planted there about 2 years. This one though, 4 years it's been in the soil, and you can see the kind of height it's got, and it's going to be getting at least a metre of growth every year. So this will be, within 10 years, this will easily be over 10 metres tall. So that's the tree now planted. As I said before, we will actually be digging this up for Christmas, so I've popped it in the pot. So it won't actually grow much this year. I'll probably have a short growth like I showed you on the previous trees. You can see this here. This must have been growing in the field last year because there's a good bit of growth from there. So this will probably only put on a few centimetres of growth up to right here, to be honest, this spring and summer. Same with these other shoots coming out here. They're only going to put a small amount of growth. Some won't be much bigger, but we'll have a slightly bigger Christmas tree for next Christmas at least. And I'll show you a few pictures now over the years of how the other Christmas tree was when we planted it, and the Sitka spruce, and how much they've grown over the years, because it's quite remarkable the amount of speed that they can put on once they get established, how fast they can actually grow in a garden.